Hi, everyone. And before we get into today's episode, I have a quick message from Judy Human.
Hello, my name is Judy Human. I'm here today to encourage you to please take your COVID vaccine. And if you have friends and family that haven't, please encourage them also. COVID is to be taken seriously. In addition to taking the vaccine, please use other protective methods. Wear a mask, use gloves, and sanitize frequently. If you need additional information and you live in Eastern Oregon, you can contact EOCIL. Thank you, and protect yourselves and the community.
Thank you, everyone, for joining in once again to the EOCIL podcast. I'm your host, Amador Perez. And today we're going to be talking with Hillary about her journey with drug addiction, seeking help, and where she is right now. Hillary, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I started using when I was a teenager. I took pain medicine, opiates, and it got really bad to the point I had to take them every day just to be a normal person. My life completely fell apart. Was homeless for most of 10 years with my ex-husband and my daughter, which wasn't great. And I tried to get help about 3 times and it just didn't work out. I couldn't stick to the program. And then I found my doctor now, and they're amazing, and they have counseling and all that, and I've now been clean for 4 years.
Wow, that's awesome. It's really great.
Yeah, it's been a struggle sometimes, but I have people, a good support system now.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned you said you were using when you were a teenager. Kind of like, what was like the environment that you lived in? Was it like really heavy into drugs, or was it kind of like an escape for you, so to say?
So at first, I started taking them when I was 19, and I had moved across the country with my husband at the time and was isolated from my family, from everybody, and didn't have a job, anything like that. And my ex-husband had them for his back, and I just started taking them because I was bored and they got me high and it was fun. And I didn't realize at the time that I was masking a lot of things that happened in my past. It actually took me several years of telling myself, oh, everybody has addictions. This is just mine. It could be coffee or whatever, but mine's pills. It's fine. And I started just taking so many that I remember every night when I went to bed praying that I would wake up, that I wouldn't OD during the night. And I did OD once, and it gave me grand mal seizures. I had 4 of them, which was really scary.
Yeah.
And it was just, there were so many things that I was covering up, and I didn't even realize it until I got clean and I could see the world for what it truly was.
So at that time, you said you had a kid, right? Did you have your child at that point in time when you first started, or was it later down the road?
We had my daughter a few years after, about a year after I started, and I did take them while I was pregnant, not a lot, and thankfully my daughter wasn't addicted, but I did take them while I was pregnant, and thankfully she was a perfect, beautiful little girl. And 4 or 5 years ago, so I got clean, and I had been clean for about a year, and my ex-husband was going to prison because he had written a lot of bad checks to get pills and whatever he could to get money. And his mother said that because I was taking Suboxone, because I take it so I don't relapse. I was not clean, and so she forged my signature on a guardianship paper, and I haven't had any contact with my daughter for 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds like a quite a bit of a journey, but the good thing is that she's all healthy.
Yeah,
Inspection.
it's crazy.
Yeah, no, I was just because how easy was it during that time for you to be able to like get these pills? Was it just through prescriptions that you were getting, or were you finding people out that were selling, or like through family friends that were just handing them out, or
All of it. Like at first, it was prescriptions, and when we first started taking them, they weren't regulated like they are now. We would go to the hospital. The best way to get pills at a doctor's office is you tell them your back hurts. You make sure that it's not on the bone. They assume it's muscle pain, give you a script. So we did that, every other day to get pills. We did everything we could. I even, when I had my seizures, they were giving me pain meds, and I would spit them out and give them to my husband because I had IV, whatever it was, Dilaudid or whatever. And we made an agreement. If we started buying them, we'd be done. Well, we started buying them, and then we kept buying them. And it got, all of our money went straight to pills. Every month, any money we got, we were broke all the time. And I came to a point where I really realized that I was in a bad spot when I went to the doctor because I had messed up my knee. And my ex-husband and my daughter were with me in the room, and they asked my ex-husband and daughter to leave the room. She was maybe 4 at the time, and they confronted me and said, look, you have a problem. And of course I was like, no, I don't, stormed out of there. And I spent that entire night just crying because I realized I'm an addict, and I need help.
Yeah. Was that hard? Because I know, because I've been doing outreach here in Ontario. That's where I'm located at. And I've been going around talking to a bunch of the community members that are homeless or happen to be drug users. And I've noticed there's some people that no matter how much, like I'm not pushing my organization, like the help and programs that I'm doing, they refuse to engage with me at all because they think that I'm just there to be like, oh, come get help, come get services. Oh, we have this program. I had one lady that showed up. I was already with a group of the community members, and this lady showed up, didn't recognize me. Obviously, I'm a new face amongst their community members, but she instantly questioned me and like, who do you work for? What are you doing here? What's your goal? Like this and that. Was there like a point in time where you kind of had that mentality where you didn't want help from anyone? Did you feel that you didn't need help from anyone, that you could solve it on your own? Or was it just kind of like embarrassed? I know some people are kind of embarrassed to admit that they have a problem, or they don't want to like make it a true story in their head.
Right. Yeah. I did not want help at all because I was so emotionally damaged that I knew if I took that pill, everything would be okay for a little while. But the bad thing is, you're always, when you have them, you're worried about running out and where you're going to get your next fix. So truly, you never really feel good. You might get high for a little while, but for the most part, it's just worrying about where the next one's coming from. And when I tried going to an outpatient, it was 3 or 4 times. It's like I was like, well, I'm not like these people. I'm not like these drug users. I'm different. I don't do this. And I would not accept that I was doing the exact same things. I was in the same stuff, but I always put myself in a different category, and it made it better. And I hid my addiction from everyone. The only person that knew was my ex-husband. And when I finally told my mom, it was such a relief that she knew. And she helped me get into my first facility because I was withdrawing. And when you're withdrawing, that's the fear. It's terrifying because you're like, okay, if I go get help, they're going to make me stop using. That's immediately comes to your mind. And the withdrawal symptoms are completely debilitating. I mean, it was so bad that I couldn't function as a human being. Everything hurts. You're sick and you're just angry and you're panicked. It's just awful. And I think that's a big reason why a lot of people don't get help. I know that stopped me for a long time. And I didn't realize there were other options. And I also didn't realize that I have a mental disorder. I have borderline personality disorder. And it's funny because when I started taking medication to help that, not opiates, I felt better than any opiate that I ever had. And I didn't even know that was possible.
Wow. And how many times have you tried to get into like a rehab center, or like how many times did you enter yourself into like a program to help quit or help stop?
I'm pretty sure my last one was my sixth. I would go, I would get Suboxone, I would come home. My ex-husband would sell it because you get more money for Suboxone than you do for pills for some reason. And so I'd have to go right back to the pills. I even went to jail for 9 days and was sober. I mean, you're in jail. And was like, I'm going to stay off of them. I'm not going to do this. Immediately went right back to taking them. It was so hard to get away from them. And I just wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to leave that in my past. And you have to leave everyone from that time behind. Friends, any family members you were using with, the town. And I wasn't in a place where I was willing to do that.
Yeah, for sure. No, yeah, sounds like it sounds tough. And was like a lot of the help that you went to go look for, was there like something quite not right for you that it didn't work out like the first time or before, were like the services they providing really not beneficial for your needs? Or was it just kind of um did they show any like actual effort in trying to like help it clean, or do you think it was more something that you were struggling with yourself internally?
So it was a little bit of both. The place I went to an outpatient and I tried, that was the place I just kept trying and kept trying months apart and I just couldn't. It was a building that had a hallway with a bunch of doors. And you would sit in the lobby and it would just be a carousel. You'd never see the same doctor twice. You would have to explain your story all over again every time and tell them about what medications and all this crazy stuff. And it was so like impersonal. Like my doctor now, I've been seeing him for 4 years and he knows me. He knows what to expect. I don't have to, he knows when something's wrong without me having to say anything. And he notices if my weight changes even a little bit. He knows me that well. And then they had a group that was behind the building in like a dilapidated barn. And I went in there and I have trouble with AA and NA too, because at first I felt like I hate to say this, like I was better than them because I didn't see it as me using to cover anything up. I saw me using just to use. I was like, I don't have anything wrong with me, which was a lie, but I didn't have anyone to help guide me to come to that conclusion. And it was so impersonal. And no matter how hard I tried, I just could not get into it. I would try so hard. And my ex-husband, husband at the time, was using heavily too. And when you're married to someone that is using, and I was married to him for 10 years, you can't leave that person behind. And so when you need to make a whole big life change, how do you leave your spouse that you've been through all this stuff together behind?
Mhm.
And it just perpetuates the problem. And he refused to get help. So I would go back and not get help. And it was just, that place was really not somewhere I would recommend.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because I noticed that's like a big thing here. So like that having that personal connection with someone, not just being treated like another number. Just
Yeah.
because for the past week or so, I've been talking to a few people, and just the other day I met with one of the community members. He was telling me about like the hard time he was having because he recently became homeless, and he was telling me that he got some sort of payment from I think disability or unemployment check or something like that, and he was really happy. And he said he cashed it, and that someone told him good job. And he said he never felt like happier in the past couple of days than he ever did because someone actually cared for him. And apparently, that made his entire day just by those little words of having someone that would actually be there just for you, have that personal connection with someone, not just like a random person every other day. So where you had to keep repeating yourself, where no one understands the way you talk, the way you act. So I bet that is difficult. And that's what we're trying to do here. At least at my office, I'm trying to make that connection with everyone that I talk to. I never start off by promoting our services. I just start off by treating them like anyone else, just talking with them, seeing what they got going on, what's the word around the street, what's happening, like anyone, just what's the gossip. And from there, then, if they feel comfortable in asking what I do, then of course I'll tell them, and I'll be like, I do this and this. I run a needle exchange program. I do HIV/AIDS awareness. We do a bunch of COVID relief work as well. And then from there, then they can ask me themselves, okay, so what is all that then? What services fall under those categories? And I've been able to make some good relationships with a couple of them. I see them now whenever I drive home from work or to work. I wave at them, they wave back at me, they greet me. So it's really great to see that. I got out of that mentality of trying to find people to promote my service, but rather than just make a connection with everyone and just be a friend.
Right.
Um, yeah, because I found a lot of them just really just want someone to talk to because they don't have anyone. They spend most of their time getting ignored by people passing on the street. They get dirty looks or whatever it may be. And then they have someone that actually just wants to just talk. It makes their day.
Yeah. I'd never done meth personally. I was too afraid to try it because I figured I'd like it and I didn't want to get deeper than I already was. But the town I was living in, everyone just assumed I was on meth because I was really skinny. But I was skinny because all the money was getting spent on pills and we didn't have any food. The small amount we had went to my daughter. And it made me just want to hide. It makes you feel so horrible because it's such a hard thing to talk about because people look at you like you're not good enough. Hell, I did. I was an addict and I looked at the other people in the room and was like, I'm better than this, which I feel horrible about now, but it was a part of my journey. And who wants to get clean in a world that just makes you feel like you're worthless? At
Right.
least you have that drug and that little bit where life isn't so horrible.
Yeah.
But you can't see that if you take the right steps, it can get better. It's just you get really impatient where you want it like right now. You need a fix right now. And so thinking, okay, well, in a year I could have a house. It's like, what's the point?
Yeah.
And it's really cool that you guys do that because I think that's huge. I think that's the exact way to even just start any sort of information or even planting the seed of getting help.
Yeah, and I know, just to like some talk, like a lot of them actually do want to get out of the situation that they're in, but they just don't have anything. One gentleman, every time I spoke to him, he kept asking me about like if I had clothing that I could give. Luckily for me, I'm in the process of moving, so I had spare clothes. I brought him some, but he kept saying like my clothes are dirty. How am I supposed to go in to get an application for a job? How am I supposed to, show up to an interview? He talked about he asked me if I have any, shower passes or know anywhere we can go shower so we can get like so we can get clean and like go in. He wants to make a change, but there's nothing available right now. He hasn't seen anyone, no one's offered him any help so that he can make that change. So luckily I'm trying to figure that out myself. I was able to find kind of like a clothing barn, so to say. Some church out here has a really large room full of men's clothing and women's clothing. I told him that he can go there and it's all free. He can take whatever he likes. So I got that problem solved for him. Now I'm working on getting the shower solution figured out for him. Because even if we don't offer that service ourselves personally, we always go the extra step to find somewhere where we can send them off to. Because I've been in situations where I go to ask for help somewhere and they're like, oh, we don't do that. And then they don't tell me where to go. And then they're like, okay, well, now what? Like, especially these people who are struggling, that's just really demoralizing for them.
I didn't know about any services. That's what helped me too. My doctor's office opened me up to, I was in a domestic violence situation. We had a domestic violence shelter. I had no idea. I was able to live there while working my job, which I was able to shower. I had a roof over my head. They had like clothing and things like that. But it seems like the things that will help you, the programs like that, aren't promoted. So people just don't know that there are ways to get that help. And that's a problem.
Yeah.
I like that's you're trying to spread that information, because it's a really, I mean, it's a pandemic, honestly, because it's not anywhere. And you don't have internet because you don't have a phone. And if you do have a phone and you happen to be able to get Wi-Fi somewhere, they try and run you off because they don't want you loitering, because you don't look good enough.
Yeah.
If they see you with cans or digging through the trash to get cans, people, they'll call the cops on you.
Right. I know that's like, because when I was younger, obviously I've changed my whole idea, but I had those like viewpoints of people as well. I was like, I don't want to go talk to them. They're, and it's pretty hurtful, the words I use. I'm like, oh, they're dirty, oh, they're gross, so they're this or they're that. I never took the time out of my day to understand their situation, to put myself in their shoes. And through time, like anything, you change, you become more mature, you understand certain things a little bit better. And I would have never understood like anything these people were going through back when I was in high school, because I was just a kid. Granted, I'm still really young, but now I know a little bit more. I could be more respectful. I can understand now, what they're going through, and kind of relate to them in a way.
Right. And you don't feel bad for them in a way. Like, you don't go up, and that's another thing, is people would be like, they'd feel bad for you, but in a negative way, if that makes sense. Like putting you as less than a human, and oh, I feel so sorry for you and your bad life. And it's just, it sucks. Addiction should not be such a huge like negative thing.
Yeah.
We all have addictions. People don't get that. I've been watching 1,000-Pound Sisters. She has an eating addiction. Same thing. She has to get her fix. Coffee addictions. Have to have your coffee in the morning. Yes, they're less damaging to your body, but it's still an addiction.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And I was gonna say that, like, even through my interactions with them, even like the very few, like the people that don't even want to talk to me. I remember my priest was telling us a story that he always gave money to whoever he could. And one guy confronted him, was like, "Why do you give them money if they're just gonna go buy drugs? They're just gonna buy alcohol?" And what the priest said was like, "Well, they're not gonna change if they don't want to. So the only thing I can do is give them this small little thing, and they'll be happy for however long it makes them happy. They'll be happy. They don't have to worry about what they're doing. They don't have to worry about being homeless. They can just get what they want and feel good, feel happy, forget about all their problems. And it's like when they're ready to change, they'll come in and change. Decide that upon themselves. I can't force anyone to change. I can't force anyone to come in to the church." And that really stuck with me throughout the all the time. Like no matter, how small it is, if I can make someone's day by helping out, by at least giving spare change, I'm gonna do it because you know they're in a tough situation. Obviously, I prefer them not to like go out and buy drugs, but if that's what they need to feel happy for whatever time it is, then go for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Get that.
Yeah, and then just also like having conversations with them. Like a lot of them didn't realize about like EOCI and what we do. And I have a couple people that are already gonna start coming in to speak with Selena, our independent living specialist, and start speaking with her about housing applications, about where to go to, receive that kind of help. So not only am I like, even if they don't need my service, there's a service that they might need that I'm able to provide and share with them that they didn't know about, which is the great thing.
That is really awesome.
Yeah, and how did you kind of get familiar with EOS? Because I know Crescentia, she was the one that introduced me to you. She was able to connect me with you. How
She's
did you end up meeting her or like finding about EOCIO?
so my doctor previously was Grand Run Recovery, but they were bought out by Copes, and I've been going there for years. And I have a job. My life, I'm financially stable. I have all that, but yet I still have been wanting to use. I've been going through a pretty bad time. I'm not social. I have trouble letting people into my circle. And I was getting really, really depressed. And I finally went and saw my counselor up there after blowing her off for months and told her what was going on. And she was like, "Look, I need to introduce you to somebody because I want to help people. That's all I ever want in life. I don't care if I have millions of dollars. If I can help someone with anything, I just
Yeah.
I want to do that." And so I met Crescencia and we started going for walks and journaling as kind of more of a friendship. And then she kind of told me about the needle exchange and that. And I think it's amazing. And I think the stigma is dumb. I think it's really dumb. I think it's just people that aren't willing to actually think about what it means. Because like you said, if they're going to use, they're going to use.
Yeah.
And I know what withdrawal symptoms are like, and you will do anything to not feel that, which means if you find a needle on the ground, you'll use it.
Yeah.
Like, might as well know that they're being safe, hopefully, and are given the information. At least that seed is planted. You never know. Most addicts, they had jail time, they have felonies. It makes life a lot harder, but they have time. And if you plant that small seed and show that kindness, like you were saying, that seed can grow and can get them thinking about what life could be like if they did get help. And you never know if somebody's going to get help or try to get help just because you are willing to not judge them.
Absolutely. Building that connection with people is like really, really key, is what I've noticed. So, and that's what I really like is from there, once I build that relationship, because the person I mainly talk to now, He's told me that he knows people that have asked him for needles, that he knows there's people out there using needles and sharing and stuff like that. So from now on, he said that just because of the help that I've given him and just treating him like a human, that he would let them know about EOCIO, that not only am I doing outreach, but he's doing it because he likes what I've done and likes what we do here at EOCIO, that he's willing to let his friends, let the people he knows be aware of the program that I have here for the needle exchange.
It's awesome. If I like that I am a part of it too, because I was an addict and I have been clean for a long time. And I feel like it's easier to connect with someone where it's like, man, I know I was in it. I was homeless and I made it. Like, you can make it too. I was homeless a year ago. My life completely fell apart after COVID. And now I clawed my way to where I am now. And it was hard, really hard not to use, really hard. A lot of counseling.
Yeah. Yeah. And how was that experience of being homeless? Was it like, did you know many services that could help get you out of that situation? Or, just like overall, what was the general experience? Like, how did people treat you? What did you have to do for yourself to get out of that situation? And what helped and what didn't?
So I was with a guy and he had 4 kids and we were together through COVID. Out of nowhere, he, in the middle of the night, said, "I'm done with you, get out." And my parents and I don't speak anymore because of that incident. I went to their house. They're horrible alcoholics, got upset, no more communication. And I'm very, very, very fortunate because Grand Run Recovery, or COPES now, their building was an old junior high. And I was living in my car for a long time. And I was going to groups up there about everything. DBT was amazing to help kind of reset my mind. And I think that's really good for people, whether they're using or not, which I also think is cool.
What was that again?
So it's called DBT. It's dialectical behavior therapy. And what it is, and you can do it by yourself. It's just easier in a group setting. It retrains your brain. So a lot of times I've noticed that addiction usually stems from abuse and or mental issues. And it's just easier to control or forget or whatever that way. And it really helps to overcome that, maybe even bring up things that you didn't even realize were issues. And what I loved about the group setting is if you're they ask a question about who knows if you've ever been hit by a parent and you just kind of don't want to talk about it, someone else will say, "Hey, this was my experience." And it's like, oh my gosh, that was mine too. I'm not alone. I'm not the only person dealing with this. And that was huge for me. And it teaches you coping skills too. Like, if you get in a situation where you're super overwhelmed and you just feel like you can't do anything anymore, you will just count whatever you can find to bring you back to the present moment where it's not so chaotic in your brain. And I actually had a guy stalk me and they let me stay in a room in that building. It was just a small room with a toilet and a sink. It was nothing fancy. And I tried to date a little bit, even though I was not in a place to do it. And I was so embarrassed. Like I would always find excuses on like why people couldn't come to my house or why my address was so weird. Like I got a job for a little while, and funny enough, their like main office is actually in that building. And I was like, I can't put that on there. I can't let people know I'm homeless. Like, what are they going to think about me? They're immediately going to say you're not qualified or whatever. And it's embarrassing. You don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
It sucks.
That would, because I know people struggle with that a lot, just the feel of embarrassment or shame that will stop you from getting help, that will stop you from doing whatever it is that you want to do. Was it was it really, like, how many jobs during that time did you try to apply for, and how many times, like, if ever, did you get denied because you were in between living situations?
A
Was that
lot.
difficult?
I was the only reason I have the job I have now was because of COVID and they were desperate. Normally, I would not get this job, and I was really, really lucky. Before that, I mean, I applied to everything I could find, anywhere, everything, didn't matter what it was. And it was just constant denial. I also have a felony from my past, which was a huge, huge hurdle because people, just because you made a bad choice at one time doesn't make you a bad person. We all go through life and things happen. How many people have done illegal things? They just didn't get caught.
Yeah.
Yet you're a terrible person because you did suffer consequences for your actions. And this job, the job at Walmart DC, waived their felony rule, but you're not supposed to work there without with a felony. And they needed people so bad that they overlooked my situation. So I feel like that was kind of divine intervention. I feel like I was trying and I was working, and because I was trying, somehow this worked out.
Yeah.
And I had no money. Gas to get up there was ridiculous. I was lucky to have a car because most people don't. And before, I never did. I just got my driver's license, actually. I did it for years, which is really hard too. You have to drive, you have to get to jobs, but you don't have a license. So you keep getting tickets for driving with a suspended license. Then it gets to the point where you can't pay all those off to get your license. And it's just a recurring carousel of hurdles for people to have to jump through. I mean, of course, you're going to want to give up.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
Like, once you got that job, how difficult or easy was it to transition back into where you are right now? Did it take you a long time to get an application for like an apartment or to rent out a room? Or, how was that after you got that job, after you secured it? How long was the process was it to where you are right now?
It took me like 7 months of applying to every apartment I could find in order to, I got, again, divine intervention when I got this house. My landlord is, and I told Crescencia about this place too. My landlord is the kind of guy that will listen to your story and will understand that you're in a place where you might need someone to lend a hand to you. And he was willing to rent this house to me, which I've never been able to sustain myself. I've always had to have a man in my life, or sorry, I have motorcycles going by. Someone to help keep me afloat. I could never do it by myself. And I'm finally doing it. I get a fairly good wage, and he's amazing. If I need help, and I can't pay a month, he understands. He'll let me clean some of his rentals. He's an amazing guy, and I just so happen to find him on Craigslist, which sounds terrible. It was, I felt like I was trying so hard. I was really trying to put all my effort into getting mentally to a place where I could function. And I'm still not there. It's been a year that I've been in this house now, and I am struggling with wanting to relapse, and I am having issues with my job, but I have to keep it because I have to pay bills. And that's really hard because I can't get a job anywhere else. And that sucks.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you just mentioned right there that, that relapse portion. How often does that happen when you feel like you want to go back into it? Is it really hard, and how do you overcome it? Do you go find someone? Do you have a close friends, family, or do you go to whoever it is that you talk to, like a counselor or whatever? Do you go to them if you get those like feelings of wanting to get back into it?
So lately it's been a lot more often. It was kind of okay for a while because the newness of the job and the house and all that. But my hours have been cut. I'm stressed about bills. I don't have any family here. Once my parents stopped talking to me, that was it. The only family member I have left died a few months later. I have trouble making friends because I don't trust people. And I tried to make a friend at work, and she ended up stabbing me in the back really bad. And I have to work with her every single day and be reminded of how cruel she was to me for no reason. And it makes me want to use. I feel so overwhelmed every single day that I work with her that I just want to not feel that anxiety and that anger and that irritation anymore. And I reached out to my counselor, and I've tried every week to see her, and it's actually given me something to finally look forward to. And then I got with Crescencia, and I get to see her once a week, every week. And having some structure instead of just go to work, come home, sit on your couch, do nothing, it's really helped. And I feel less like I want to use.
Yeah.
But it's been hard. It's been really hard.
And that's something, I recently been hearing, because they teach me a lot when I go out to the community members. They'll tell me their stories. They'll tell me stuff that I'm not aware of. That battle with relapsing. One gentleman said that he was clean for 8 years, relapsed, and he's been using ever since, and he can't find it in him to get clean again. He said he's tried and tried, but it also comes back to that letting people in and trusting people to have your back. And then once they do break that trust, how can you ever trust anyone else? How can you ever go out and seek help? Because all you can worry about is that trust being broken again.
Yeah.
And which is like, it's really sad to hear. And the more I do this, the more I can kind of like understand where they're coming from. I can better do my research, figure out what I need to know before I go out there and start talking with them. That way I don't bring up anything that might be traumatizing, that I know how to conduct myself around people. And stuff like that. And they teach me so much. One of the better things that I learned that they kind of taught me was, I showed up to this area where I normally see them hanging out, and I talked with 3 of them, and they were all talking about taking, I think they call it the blues or Smurf, which is
fentanyl.
And they were talking about wanting to do that, but one of them said that they can't do it because I'm there. And he explained it that since I'm a guest, since I'm there, they want to be respectful, that they're not going to use it in front of me. I was like, I thought that I was like, because my entire time I was like, they were gonna do whatever they want. They're always doing it. When I heard that, I was like a bit surprised, so to say, because I didn't think they would care for me in that sense. But he said that he wants that they're gonna be respectful and not do it in front of my presence or while I'm there talking with them. And then he got into saying like terms, and this is what he used. He used clean junkies and dirty junkies, and the clean junkies will respect others. They won't do it around children or at parks. They'll pick up after themselves. They'll go out so where they're not seen in public doing that kind of stuff. And then the dirty junkies is what he referred to as they'll just do it wherever. They'll throw their garbage. They'll do it in front of children. They'll do it at public parks where there's a lot of people around and just won't take care of their location. And he was explaining that, they themselves, even though they're homeless, they try to educate others because if they're not picking up after themselves, then the police are going to start cracking down on where they can stay, where they can sleep for the night, and it's just going to make it worse for everyone as a whole. And that was the biggest thing that I learned was, even in the situations that they're in, there's a lot of people that want to be respectful to others and care about, what's going on in their environment. So just learning from them has been really, really great for me.
Yeah, that is a big thing. And it's sad because that just like that, and I don't mean this any judgment or anything, but people do assume that. They assume, well, you're a junkie. You're just you're dirty. You're just doing whatever you want. You don't care about anybody but yourself. The biggest thing I absolutely hate is when family members say, you don't love me enough to quit. Because when you start taking drugs, it's a choice.
Yeah.
When you keep taking drugs, it's a necessity. It's like drinking water. If you don't have water, your body will shut down. Same with the drugs. And you can love somebody more than life and still not be able to quit because it's not a choice. And I feel like that really needs to be like drilled into people's minds because we're losing family. We're losing the people we love because we just can't get it through to them that it's not about love. It's about necessity. I hear that a lot and it really hurts. It hurts my heart because I've had that so many times and I would do anything. And my ex-husband once was willing to put too much of his grandmother's medication in a drink to give her an overdose to get her money so he could buy drugs. That's how bad it was. And I talked him out of it, thankfully. But it gets so serious that you'll do anything.
Yeah.
And I hate that I have been there in my life, but it is, I can't change it. Just hopefully I can get people's trust.
Yeah.
Because I do only have good intentions. And I'm sure you do too.
Mm-hmm.
We're not here to stab them in the back. We're not here to try and make them feel awful. Like, I mean, even I'm an addict. I will be for the rest of my life. I just am in recovery. I'm a recovered addict. But I will always have that temptation.
Yeah.
And it's hard. I understand why after a lot of people will say I was clean for 10 years, 8 years, 20 years, and then a really traumatic thing happened and I just fell off the wagon. A friend of mine was clean for 20 years. His wife OD'd on meth that he'd been with for 32 years, and he's been on meth ever since.
Yeah, that's really it's heartbreaking to hear that, especially when they were doing so well. You can only wish them the best. I know when you mentioned that OD part, that kind of like reminded me like that same story I was telling you about the people not wanting to like shoot up, or I don't know what you quite exactly do it, but I think you smoke it, right? Or would you know? Or I have no idea. I'm still learning.
You can do anything with it. You can smoke it. You can take it orally. A lot of people, and I'm being serious, will actually put it in their butt because your intestines
Will
will
absorb it.
soak up 75% of the pill. Your stomach is like 30%, and then snorting it or injecting it is 100%. So it depends on what tissue it's going to. Anything,
Yeah, so
any.
yeah, and that's so they were doing that, and I just brought up in that conversation, like because they wanted to do that so often. I brought it up to them that I have Narcan, and
Oh yeah,
all three of them knew exactly what it was. They're like, "Oh, do you have any on you?" I'm like, "I don't have any on me right now, but if you guys are gonna go do whatever you're gonna do right now, out of respect that you're not doing it right now in front of me, but if you're gonna go to the park or wherever you guys are gonna go, what I can do is I can drive to the office right now. I can pick up X amount of Narcan things, and I can meet you wherever you are. That way you have it." And they're like, "Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely." I show up to the park 10 minutes later with Narcan and our needle exchange bags that we hand out, just so they can see it. Because I thought I might as well at least give them a little sample of what it is that I have at the office in case they ever want it. And yeah, sure enough, they were at the park sitting by a tree. They were waiting for me before they did anything. And one of the gentlemen who's like, "So how do you use it exactly?" I was able to teach him right then and there how it's administered. It's a nasal spray that you only use it for certain overdoses, not a lot of, like, if someone's passed out drunk, it's different. Don't use it on someone that is just intoxicated with alcohol, because that it works differently. But I was able to educate him there. I was able to show him exactly what we offer, because in our needle exchange boxes that we give out, there's certain needle types that we can give them. So the length of the needle, the gauge, half cc or a full cc. In there we have tourniquets, alcohol pads, we have petroleum jelly, we have Epsom salt to clean wounds. We have fentanyl test strips in there as well, so that they can test whatever it is that they're using, if it's heroin or the blue or whatever it is. I showed them how to use that test strip to make sure that their stuff isn't laced with fentanyl, and he was blown away by it. I was able to give him and his buddies 3 different kits without the needles, because for that they have to come in and I have to sign them up into the program. I can't just give them needles and not log it in.
right.
So that's kind of a restriction on my end, but he was really grateful. I gave him 2 boxes of Narcan, taught him how to use it, and now he has it. And the crazy thing was, he said that a week before he had overdosed. So I was like, well, better safe than sorry. Have it. If you're doing it with anyone, make sure they know how to use it, just in case you're the one that overdoses. They can potentially save your life and get you back. So just educating them as they're educating myself as well.
That's awesome. I think it's amazing that they created Narcan. It's, I personally, other than mine, well, I saw my ex-husband's overdose, and he was on gabapentin. It's not an opiate, it's a nerve medicine, but it gives you euphoric effect if you take enough of it.
Yeah.
And he would have tremors, and anything in his hands, he would just throw it. It was really scary. And then he had a seizure. And then I had 3 grand mal seizures. And I didn't even know I was overdosing at the time. I didn't realize until recently that that's what that was. And that's scary.
Yeah.
You just black out and then wake up and you're not just laying on the floor or in a totally different position than you were. And it's scary. And I'm so happy that we're trying to come up with something to help.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how many lives it's saved.
Absolutely. And a lot of the people who actually like do use drugs know exactly what Narcan is, because it's that effective. It's that life changing, that they already know what it is. They just don't know where to get it. They don't know where to find it. And I told them that I have plenty of it in my office. obviously I can't just hand it out like 100%, but I'm never gonna deny someone from it. Uh,
Right.
I can't give a single person 10 boxes. But if they want a box or two, I will more than happy give it to them. And
Right.
that kind of leads me into my next topic. Is there anything that you've seen that wish you saw when you were using? Like, is there any help that you wish was available, or what kind of things do you feel need to happen in order to be able to reach these people more and offer help and get them to where they want to be better in their own lives in whatever way that is to them?
That's a tough one because there's so many. Um, having having someone like you that I could talk to, that I could be open about the fact that I was addicted to something and I needed help. Um, in the place I was, there were no available counselors. That was not something. Oh, sorry, that's a lie. They had one counselor, and he actually told me, and this is a true story, if you say no more than once, it is not rape. And it's crazy. I know that's what everybody says. Yeah.
Wow.
And yeah, and in that time, I mean, I was going through that had happened several times. And for someone to say that to you, you just are like, I am worthless. Look at what I've gotten myself into. Look at what I do. I think suicide awareness should be more, like, I know they have a hotline, but in all honesty, like, I would never call it because I feel like who knows if your information is going to be taken down, or just like when they say if you OD, call the hospital and nothing will happen to you. I don't believe that. And it may be true, but I would never do it because I don't want to get arrested.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in that situation. I wish that people were more understanding about what happens and have less judgment. That would have changed a lot of things. And just knowing that there are things you can do to get help. I didn't know about any outreaches. The way I would shower is I would go get some water from the park and put it in a milk jug, and I would dump it on me in the Walmart parking lot. And that was my shower. And we gave plasma to get money. I mean, it was anything. If employers were less critical, I understand in certain situations you don't want certain felonies to be an issue. An aggravated assault, I get that. But a drug charge has nothing to do with your ability to work if you come in and prove that you're going to do your job and do it well. If there was more acceptance and more options, especially I started taking opiates in 2010. I mean, that was a long time ago when they said that opiates weren't addictive at that time. It was crazy. I wish too, my ex-husband was excruciatingly abusive. It was to the point where I had to ask permission to eat food or drink anything. And I thought that there was no way that I would get away from him, ever. And now I know there's a domestic violence shelter that is hidden, that is under lock and key, complete surveillance 24/7. I didn't know that. And I spent 10 years in an extremely abusive relationship that has messed with my head bad. And I didn't have to go through that. I didn't have to take drugs to deal with it. I didn't have to feel guilty about being a bad mother because I needed help. I You always worry you're going to get your kids taken away from you. CPS is just, they want to take your kids like that. And I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
Losing her the way I did was heartbreaking. And if it would have happened sooner, I don't know what I would have done.
Right. Yeah. See, and the, I like asking that to everyone because like if people don't come in, then we're never gonna know what they actually need. We could do all the analysis. Oh, we can just take the general population. Oh, most of them need this, blah blah blah. But you can go into your local community. None of them might need that stuff. Like with our food boxes, because we have a food pantry here. It used to be a lot of we used to get a lot of Hispanic people, and they would say that they're throwing away a lot of the food because they don't eat that food. So why are we going to spend money ourselves on food that they're not going to eat and just go to waste? So we made that change. So we now have boxes that are a little bit more diverse in what
Right.
they offer. So it's the same thing with this is,
That's
I
cool.
can offer X, Y, and Z, but they might not need it. So why am I going to keep wasting resources and funds for stuff that they don't need and that won't benefit them? Instead, I can go out there, ask them like, hey, what do you need? What is it that you see that could benefit you right now? And that way I can work it out with my team, with Crescentia, to get what they actually need that would actually help them instead of just be a waste for them and a waste for us. So I don't know, we're working on that right now as it is, trying to, make sure everyone has exactly what they need. We're coming up with new ideas to get the community involved and engaged, to get them to, come together and talk with one another to have that person, right? So it's been great. But and just to kind of wrap up things, so I don't want to take up too much
Yeah.
more of your time. I know you said it was your day off, so I don't want to have your day off be a day of just recording with me. But yeah, just to kind of sum it up, is there any like final thoughts or things you want to say to the people listening that you like them to know?
That things can always get better. That you'd be amazed at how many people, every time I see someone that is like a panhandler and I give them something, I always say, I've been there. There's a way out. And don't be afraid to reach out to, even if you need someone you know who's not an addict, to go and ask the questions. Do whatever you can because life is too precious to waste it. Miracles can happen every day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, then, Hillary, for talking with me, and I want to give a thank you to Crescentia for connecting me with you. So everyone out there listening, if you need anyone to talk to or someone that might need help, we have 4 office locations: one in Ontario, one in the Dalles, Burns, and then Pendleton. And you can always drop on in and you can talk to one of the harm reduction specialists, which is myself here in Ontario, Isaac Garcia as well here in Ontario, and then Crescentia Witherspoon and Gabriel in Pendleton. We're soon to be expanding a little bit more. That way we can reach more people and help out as much as we can. But yeah, if there's anything you guys ever need, any questions about the services that we provide, come on in, visit our website at eocil.org, give us a phone call, wherever it might be. But I want to thank everyone for listening. I want to thank again Hillary for joining and telling her story and her experience. And I hope everyone has a great rest of your day.